What a world we live in. That we can have a 1-2 from a team that isn't Red Bull and still be upset. And not only is that team not Red Bull, it's our favourite papaya Buccaneers, McLaren. The one and only team to achieve a 1-2 in the 2021 season. Funny how Red Bull or Mercedes couldn't manage that at all in 2021, and yet McLaren was the only one who did it with a car that wasn't that fast on average. And yet here they are. Perhaps clearly the fastest car now. And they had an easy 1-2 at the 2024 Hungarian Grand Prix. And no one's happy. At least, no one's happy about the 1-2. I mean, I'm sure Hamilton's happy with getting a 200th career podium. I'm sure Leclerc is happy for actually finishing in the points for once. Which is probably the first time he's actually done it since Monaco? I can't remember. But yeah, McLaren. What a way to make everyone feel bad over a 1-2. Where even your staunchest supporters are asking you, what the hell was that? We have a situation where McLaren locked out the front row of the grid in qualifying. Lando, P1. Oscar in P2. And then the race starts and Oscar manages to take the lead. Lando sort of bottled it. Okay, fair enough. And then Oscar leads half the race. Even after the first round of pit stops. Oscar goes in first, then Lando. Order keeps the same. Then, roughly lap 48. Latter half of the race. Not quite 20 laps to go, but getting towards that area. And Hamilton pits for new tyres, and he's going pretty quickly, and I can understand why McLaren pit. Because there was a good chance that Lewis was going to undercut them. With faster laps on a fresher tyre, you can definitely understand why they chose to pit Lando first. But the fact that they didn't instantly pit Oscar the very next lap to try and maintain his lead allowed Lando to undercut Oscar. So now Lando's in the lead, and Oscar feels like that he's been hard done by because his team have fucked him. They've given the undercut to his teammate. The one who started on pole deserves the win in his own way, for that at the least. He's a fast driver, he's been deserving of so many race wins. He deserved the race win last week, but they fucked him, and he fucked himself. And yet, apparently it's Lando's fault that Oscar was behind after the pit stop. And frankly, I don't understand how that's his fault, why they were telling him to give the position up. McLaren fucks it for Oscar, and in the end, Lando's the one who is P2 in the championship. The one who needs as many points as he can to try and overhaul Max Verstappen, who still has a healthy lead. So I was of the position that they should have just left it like that. You've acknowledged that you fucked Oscar. You fucked his race. So just keep Lando in the lead, help him with 7 extra points in the championship. Who knows? The championship could come down to those 7 points. You never know, right? That's how close this season has gotten. And yet, the amount of radio calls to Lando begging him to give the position back because he needs to be a team player. Sure, I understand that. But the same stuff can be put the other way. Oscar can be the team player by playing second fiddle to Lando, who is in a much better championship position. Hence, sorry, Oscar, I don't think you deserved it today. I mean, if you deserved it in your own way, I don't think it was your race to win. I'll put it that way. And yet, McLaren decide that they're going to start basically threatening Lando. Like, that's how it felt. They were threatening Lando that there would be consequences, essentially, if he didn't give the position back, if he didn't... a position that they gifted to him, essentially. And now he's going to be gifting it back to Oscar 2 laps from the lead. I was on Sky F1. Crofty and Martin Brundle were talking about the 2017 race here in Hungary, where Bottas gave position to Hamilton to see if he could get the position on Kimi Raikkonen, take second place or something. When he couldn't do that, he gave the position back at the last corner of the final lap. That's a different situation, though. There were team orders on both ends of that. Right? That was Bottas being asked to let Hamilton through, and Hamilton, admittedly, he was the team player. He gave the position back to Bottas when it became absolutely clear that he wasn't getting P2 from Raikkonen, and he willingly gave the position back. He promised to give it back. Lando, he got given the position by his own team. Why should he feel obligated to give it back? He did in the end, and you can tell that he was not happy. He feels like that his race victory got, he feels like his race victory got robbed, and I feel like he got robbed too. And now Oscar's gonna probably feel like his race win was tainted because it got gifted to him. He wanted to hold on to it. He wanted to win on merit. He wanted to lead every lap, but he didn't because his team fucked him. And then they just decided, oh, here you go, here it's given back. At the point that Lando gave the position back, he had a 6-second lead. 6 seconds. Oscar wasn't catching, he was falling behind. At that point, I would have just said, right, just let Lando win. We'll talk about it in the debrief. But no. No, apparently, it's Lando's fault that he was in the lead. And so many people were calling him like a crybaby in a chat I was in. And just they were cheering on Oscar as if it was Lando's fault that he was in the lead at that point, and that he wanted to win. Because apparently Oscar deserved it more because he took the lead in turn 1 and led for about 35 laps, give or take. Can't remember how many. It's just... So, they've got one driver who now feels like he was robbed. They've got another driver who feels like the race was gifted to him, and probably it doesn't feel as special. And of course, further down the field, Lance Stroll did a nasty to Fernando Alonso, stole 10th place off of him in a similar situation, but different. Don't know all the details of that. But, yeah. McLaren got a 1-2. They got almost maximum points, and yet everyone lost. Well, except Lewis Hamilton, who got his 200th podium. And got that 3rd place on merit Well done to him. Even Checo Perez had a decent race for once. He went from 17th to 7th in a car that isn't doing as well as it was at the beginning of the season. Fair play to Checo, he had a decent race. And Russell as well, he got points too. After starting in 16th, or 17th, wherever. I think I got the positions the wrong way around. There was some good races from some of the other drivers. And I think Lando and Oscar, they were both equally deserving of a race victory. But on this occasion, I think it should have gone to Lando, and there are many people saying that the championship could come down to 7 points. If it comes down to those 7 points that he didn't get today, who knows? Plenty of other opportunities. Maybe the Red Bull is going to fall off a cliff. You don't know. But I think it's equally ridiculous to assume that... Hang on. To assume that the championship won't come down to 7 points. Hang on. That doesn't quite make sense, does it? Like, there are people who are sort of doing this sort of SpongeBob thing. Oh, 7 points in the championship. Oh. But I think with the season as competitive as it is, if it stays this competitive until the end of the season, it could well come down to those 7 points. And McLaren will be kicking themselves if Max wins the championship by 7 points. Or less. It could have come down to this one race today. So yeah, I feel hard done by. Lando's going to feel hard done by. Oscar's probably going to feel slightly less hard done by. McLaren have a lot of work to do. Either way. Regardless of which way you swing on this issue, you have to acknowledge that this was a monumental fuck. I mean, it couldn't have been... It wasn't as bad as Silverstone 2 weeks ago. Okay? That was really bad. In that occasion, they gifted a win and a podium to another driver, another team. On this occasion, they still got the 1-2, but no one is happy with it. Instead of having 50% of the fan base being upset because Oscar didn't win, now we have 100% of the fan base upset because Oscar's win feels undeserved, tainted, and Lando didn't get a win that he could have easily had and definitely needed. He's in the championship fight. He is in second place. We can't afford to be throwing positions away that could be so crucial later on. Yeah, it's... McLaren has to realise that these aren't the days of 10 years ago, where they were McHonda. Where they had a shitty engine and a shitty car that that was barely even able to pick up points. This isn't even the days of when they had Renault engines, when they were more competitive, but still not the fastest. Or, well, not as fast as they would like. They have a car that can win a championship. They have two exceptional drivers. And they can't afford to make mistakes like this. Essentially, that's what I'm trying to say. Let's just hope that the championship doesn't come down to 7 points or less. Let's really hope it doesn't come down to that. And let's hope that McLaren can get their act together and start acting like a synergized team to actually do things properly and not throw things away willy-nilly and not upset everyone, including their own drivers, over calls that are just nonsense. If you wanted Oscar to stay in front of Lando, you should have put him first. Lando was saying as much. So, yeah. Today, there was one or two... There were two winners, we'll say. Hamilton and Leclerc. Hamilton because he got his podium. Leclerc because he actually finished the race in a decent position. Let's hope next week we have a better race. Better calls. Rooting for Lando. Hopefully Oscar gets a good result as well. Bring on Belgium.